The main purpose of getting permission to advertise for bids, if you guys remember, we had to do this last year for our summer projects. So that's really the main focus of this. But so if you look at the agenda, I'll have Steve talk about a little technology infrastructure update. Now I'm just going to have a couple quick comments about deferred maintenance and costs because we have been talking and you guys are understanding the importance of PI funds and stuff like that. Then I'm just going to review the quick projects that we're looking at, and then once I give you all my numbers, Alana's going to confirm that my numbers will fit within the process, and that's pretty much where we're going to see. Okay, so Mr. Meese. Yeah.
Okay, so I just wanted to kind of give an overview this year of where the technology department is and kind of where we are as far as the infrastructure and how that's affected by the budget, those kinds of things. So what I've done is basically I've kind of put together a technology needs budget for this year to kind of go over to let everybody see what we're going to be paying for this year and some of the things that we need money for this year as well. So this is really just kind of broken down. So that maybe it doesn't make total sense to everybody, but what I do is I have a master spreadsheet that I use that looks out over like 5 years. And so what I've taken that down, I've condensed that down for just this 1 year so that we can just focus on that right now. Essentially, so to start out, we're looking at things that we need to do. Physical server upgrades this year. We have 2 virtual hosts, VMware hosts that we need to do upgrades on this year. That's a $30,000 price tag that we're going to incur for that. We need to upgrade our storage, our network storage this year. That's called a SAN, which is attached storage to the network, and that's where we store all of the stuff that we have on the network. Basically, a lot of documents are stored there, software stored there. All the things that we use in the district are stored on that device. So that's where those VMware hosts are as well. So really, that's the data hub of the entire network is that piece of hardware. So we're going to be looking at doing an upgrade on that. We have a couple of other physical warranties that we have to put up together. That's $2,700 for some warranty work. We have licensing for software for servers, which we need to purchase here. Microsoft licensing is on there. That's what we pay annually for our Microsoft license for the district. VMware, again, this is what runs our storage attached network for the district. That's what runs all of our virtual servers and our virtual hosts. That's licensing costs that we'll also be purchasing this year. Moving on, we've got some of the big ones here, our switch upgrades. We've got a lot of switches that we need to upgrade. I've got probably about at least a dozen of them this year that are about 10 years old. So that is definitely at the top of the list this year to get those done. What's happening though is as time goes on and we're still with the same budget numbers, right? Something always has to give. So it's like, okay, this year maybe I can't do 10 switches, maybe I can only do 7 because that money's got to go someplace else. But this would upgrade all of the switches that we need to have upgraded this year for that amount of money. Next line item is textbooks and electronic materials. This is the money that comes out of my budget that we pay for the textbooks, electronic textbooks for the district. I don't think that it all comes out of my budget. I know some of it probably comes out of teaching and learning, but this is the part that comes out of my budget. So this is kind of a fixed cost for us this year. This is what we're paying this year. I'm sure that price will probably go up next year, depending on the software that the district decides to purchase. Next item I have on here is called the Exenda Packet Shaper. What that does, that's a network appliance, and what that does for the district is allows us to do what's called packet shaping. And so we can look at the actual data packets that are running across the network and see what those packets are headed for. Meaning that if somebody's trying to get to Yahoo, I can see they're getting to Yahoo. If they're trying to get to some other website, we can see that. What it allows us to do is it allows us to dynamically adjust the control of the data that's going across the district network. So if suddenly we're seeing something that we don't like, say that there's a virus someplace and it's overloading the network, I can cut that virus off at this piece of equipment and stop it from spreading through the rest of the district and stop it from getting out of the district as well. So this really it's kind of a monitoring piece is what it does. It lets us monitor what's going on and allows us to adjust the different network settings according to what we need to do. So that's one of the items that's on there. The next item we have on here are these battery backups. And so what we use these for, these are items that are in all of our servers, wiring closets. These are big batteries that sit in there, and when the power goes out, these things kick on and run until the power comes back on, theoretically. They do have a limited runtime, though. Usually they're like 20 or 30 minutes. So if the power hasn't come back on in that time, they'll just die off. And then we have to physically go back there and turn those on. This is something that really needs some attention this year. I've kind of backed off on this and tried to focus more on getting devices as opposed to this. But this year, we're kind of in a bad spot with a couple of the server closets and getting that done. So this is definitely something that's on the top of the list for this year as well. Another big ticket item that's coming up is wireless access points. Something to be aware of is that the earliest access points that were installed in the district are now probably approaching 7 to 8 years at this point. And so as you can see, there's a list on there, quantity 235. So those are mostly at Nagel and some of the elementary schools where they got some of the first access points. But as you can see, these are there are access points around the district. So we've got approximately 250 of them. So that should be replaced this year if we can do that. What's happening, just to keep you aware of this. So for example, at Nagel, they had an access point that died. In order for me to get a replacement for it, I had to buy a refurbished one because the new ones that are on the market, the technology won't mesh with what we have in the existing spot. So we're buying older equipment, refurbishing it, and getting it to work. We can do that for a while. That's not something that's like, oh, sky is falling, but it's a signal that things are starting to come. And to be aware of that, a lot of this equipment was installed around the same time. So unfortunately, that means a lot of it is going to fail around the same time. Electronics are just like that, unfortunately. So we've got, like I said, about 250 or so access points that we're looking at upgrading this year. Next item that I have on my list here is connectivity and services. There. So you can see what we're paying for connectivity and services to HCC and to Spectrum. That's what we're paying every year for connectivity to get to the internet. Plus the HCC, they provide all kinds of software and services and support for us as well. So that's also built into my budget. Backup appliance, that's where we back up everything that's on our network. Hard drive that's out there is what it does. But it's an intelligent hard drive. So we get a backup every week, and then we get what's called incrementals every night. So what it does is the appliance goes out there and it looks. If there's any change that's been made to a file or anything on the network, it will back that file up. If it hasn't found a change in that file, it'll skip that file. So it's intelligent in what it's trying to do. So we're backing up everything, but we're also being smart about how we're doing it because we're not just backing up everything randomly, right? We're doing it as needed. So that's the backup appliance that we'll be upgrading. Communications that I have is also coming out. Okay, communications, so that's for cell phones and Cincinnati Bell. That's what we're paying annually for our phone service for this year. That's obviously that's a fixed cost. That's something that we just have to pay. Next line item is for printing, and that's what also comes out of my budget. The ComDoc contract is in there, plus the annual print shop costs. So I pay for the items that go in a cable break somewhere, or we need repair on something. So this is money I try to hold on to make repairs when we need repairs in those areas. Next line item, security access control. This is one of those things that is also has increased over the past few years. When I came here, this is my 6th year here. When I came here, this budget item was about $5,000. Now we're at $35,000. right? So we keep adding stuff into that cost. And so that number, I assume, will probably just keep going up as well. So just keep that in mind. AV replacement, that's money, again, that I set aside to try to do replacement for broken items such as projectors, boards, interactive boards, and TVs. Again, that stuff, a lot of that stuff was installed at the same time, and now I'm seeing that the equipment starting to fail. So this year, I know I've replaced at least 10 TVs in classrooms already this year. So I expect to do more of that this year as well. Devices is on here. This is what we're looking at purchasing for Chromebooks for students, staff devices, and Chromeboxes. These are the devices that are in every classroom that the teachers use. This is the line item that is one of those things that is not set in stone. And unfortunately, sometimes if I need to buy something like a network gear, then there's one less of these things that is being able to be purchased because of that. So we're always doing this thing as a balancing act, right? It's always like, well, if there's not enough money to do this, where do I get that money? And a lot of times it ends up coming out of this part of the budget. It's like, okay, so I can't buy as many devices as I would like to this year because of that reason. And the last item on this list is just,
You click down at the bottom and it pops up.
It's the
all sorts of news feeds.
managed services. And so, and that's what we pay for support for having technicians here on site. That's what we pay for support for having people back at their network operations center that we can call for help. So I like to think about this is it's not just that we have some techs here on site, but we have the power of a whole company behind this. If I need to call, make a phone call to get somebody with a specific skill set, I can usually find it by calling this company through managed services. This is Ford Edge, the company that we work with. They have a large enough company that usually if there's a problem here, one way or the other, I can find somebody at this company that can help solve the problem. So that's all wrapped into that managed services bundle. So I know that was extremely quick, but I just wanted to get your eyes on this more than anything, just so that you can see this and know that where we're at as far as this goes. Know that my budget currently is somewhere around 1.7, 1.8 million, and so we're a little bit short in where that falls. And so again, it's a matter of what do we do and what do we not do, because we can't pay for it all, and then when we don't pay for something, it's got to come from someplace else. So I would, if you ever have any questions, or if you want to just mull this over for a while and talk about it at the next meeting or sometime, whatever you'd like to do.
What you have listed, those aren't wants, those are needs.
Those are needs, yes.
How does this compare to last year's budget for you?
Budget's the same.
It's been the same, right?
I'm sorry.
Year over year?
That's my spec-
If it's Spectrum, answer.
I don't know.
We have a connectivity problem at Summit right now, and it's an election site tomorrow.
All right. So that was it. I'm sorry, do you have any other questions? What was that?
So your budget is 2.5 for
No,
1.7 and
that's what we
1.8 year over
need.
year?
We're
Yeah,
around 1.7 every year.
every year?
Yeah.
Okay. That's what you figure into your budget,
Correct.
and then you go through this.
Correct. So I have
Analysis.
1.7 and say, this is what I need. And so what out of that do you not buy in order to get to that 1.7 work?
Were your needs for last year 2.5 million as well? So 2.5, it's increasing.
It will increase. So one thing to know is that I'm going off of prices probably that are about 8 months old at this point. So my assumption is that prices have gone up because they've gone up for all kinds of electronic equipment. Anything
I
else?
don't have any other questions.
Okay.
I'll probably just take a look at this
Sure.
afterwards, and if I do, I'll call you.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yep, like I said, I just wanted to give you a brief overview and give you something to look at so that you understand what's coming out of my budget, how much my budget is,
Yep.
and what kind of needs that we have in the district. Thank you very much.
Awesome. Yes, thank you, Steve. And thanks for the segue, by the way. You gave me a good segue here. because Steve was sort of in the same. Not in present mode, is it? Normally there's not those lines, but you can see that okay, can't you? Okay. So what I wanted to throw out, and I know you cannot read this right off, okay? Steve was just sort of talking about some deferred technology because, you know, he's got X number of dollars and not enough dollars to meet. So what I wanted to do here, and let me see if I can manipulate the screen, is this is our, can I just try something for a second?
Maybe.
Wow. Slideshow. There we go. All right. You still can't read it real well, but what we have here is, okay, this is the where we built the PMP that you guys have seen numerous times. Okay, this is the company that we use to assess our buildings and roofs, and they've been doing it for a number of years. So the challenge is 5 years ago, 6 years ago, our 5-year plan got put in place with these numbers, okay? And if we would have been able to do all of the roofs, you know, when we theoretically should have done them, but we haven't. But now, these roofs now cost $1.747 million more, just because it from 21 to 23, okay? So there's no on this piece really. It's just I just wanted to share with the fact that these costs are increasing quite a bit, and the controls are sort of challenging with that, okay? So that's where we are, and that's why I'm always harping that we want to be able to look at roofs and asphalt, because I could probably pull this up in the asphalt pricing and do the same thing, okay? And we had this, TrueCraft just did the reassessment for us a month ago on this, okay? So then what they've done is, Larry could say this more eloquently if he was here without having to mess with what he's messing with right now. But in essence, ideally, all these roofs should be fixed now. So then what they've done, TrueCraft roofing companies have prioritized the worst of the worst and put a hierarchy to them, starting at the top of the list. So what we want to do now is we want to look at our PI summer projects, a board meeting, not this meeting, and do a formal request to advertise the bid, because it will take a month or so to get all the documentation together. And then our goal is to put it out on the street for companies to start bidding early January. That way we're ahead of the curve. We were ahead of the curve last year, and we were able to get Nagel taken care of, you know, in a timely manner, and we got our asphalt taken care of in a timely manner. We wait behind. We could do supply chain issues, and also these companies aren't getting people to work for them. They're low on help, so they're missing out on jobs. So we definitely don't want to be on that end. That's why last week when I said, or the week before, I said we really need to get this going. We had some good solid numbers to look at, okay? So what we're looking at here, our first section, the worst section in the district, is Anderson Area 1, okay? And just the materials cost, and then that'll make sense a little bit more. The materials cost for this area about $282,000. Okay, and these are rough estimates. These aren't concrete prices yet because it has not been bid. Okay, so we want to do Anderson Area 1. We want to do Anderson Area 1. This chart messed up a little bit. They say Area 1, but it's really this small section here, number 2. It's like the backside of the gymnasium and that area. So we want to do that small section. And that's relatively inexpensive for the cost of $73,000. Again, materials only. Okay. Then if you remember when we did our bids in the past, we always try to throw in an alternate because ideally maybe our estimates are way off. We're thinking too high. And then so we give the companies opportunities to bid on other parts of projects that if extra money, we'll do and advance that. That's how we got a couple little pieces of asphalt taken care of last year too, I do believe. So the alternate would be this roof, and it's needed a full roof replacement for quite some time, but that's the alternate we will put out to see if we can get this. The formal bids will be on Turpin Area 1, Anderson Area 1, and then the alternate, if a company chooses to go on the alternate, would be for the district office roof. This is a shingle roof. It's well past its life. And again, any of these roofing structures that we want to get to, we don't want to take it to a critical failure. If, all of a sudden you got to replace all the substrate and everything, and then God forbid you get to a roof collapse or, just not even just massive leakage. And then with all of Steve's technology up in the ceilings, that's not a good thing. Okay, so those are the roofing pieces I wanted to introduce to you. And then in essence, while I was saying those were the cost of the items, this is how it's broken down. The actual roof project would cost up to $400,000. Okay, because of the different